So now they're making it that you're not even allowed to say things like climate change. Trump's energy department forbids staff from saying climate change. It's joining a long list of banned words. Banned words. Wow. Mother Jones says climate scientists raise a middle finger to Trump's. Trump called climate change a con job. Trump's new purge of climate language, even resilience, is stricken there. Federal government's growing ban words list. The Energy Department isn't allowed to say climate change and green in official documents. Not allowed to say climate change emissions and clean energy. Not even allowed to say clean energy. I'm allowed to say that. I'm the Caribbean Weather Dude. For a little while longer, I guess, until the tech company shut me down here. I mean, YouTube just agreed to pay Trump $24 million for who knows what. I mean, these people are crazy right now, and they don't want you to talk about this or that. Oh, yeah, and they're going to defund everybody, too. Not just defund all these agencies' actual climate science that's being done, but they're just going to defund the entire U.S. government there. So anyways, why am I talking about America? They're nuts. Currently, we're 1.28 Celsius above annual average, as far as we know, the anomaly. But due to the lapse in federal government funding, NASA is not updating this website. So we don't know anymore what they're saying here. As you can see, here's what would be normal, 0 temperature anomaly. And then here we have 1 Celsius temperature anomaly. And we have punched up through that over the last 25 years. Earth's global temperature in 2024 was 2.3 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 1.28 Celsius warmer than the 20th century baseline, 1951 to 1980. NASA records show global temperature was 2.65 degrees Fahrenheit, 147 degrees Celsius warmer than the late 19th century, 1850 to 1900. That's the pre-industrial average. The 10 most recent years have been the warmest on record. The data shown are the latest availability. So the billionaire oil people, all this and that, they don't want you to talk about it. You know, they want Trump to make it illegal to even say the word climate change. Just burn gas, burn oil, burn it all. That's a great idea. I mean, it's not like there's an unlimited amount of it. Oh yeah, wait, there is a limited amount. Of course, environmental damage is putting European way of life at risk, says report. Oh, so I guess that's why the Americans don't care. So more than 80% of protected habitats are in a poor or bad state, with unsustainable consumption and production patterns driving loss of wildlife. EU's carbon sink has declined by about 30% in decades as logging, wildfires, and pests damage forests. British Columbia is no different there. Emissions from transport and food have barely budged since 2005, despite progress in other sectors. Member states have failed to adapt to extreme weather as fast as risk levels have fallen. Water stress already affects 1 in 3 Europeans and will worsen as the climate changes. Oh, yeah. Well, make it illegal to talk about it. That'll help it. That'll solve it. That's what we need there. Obviously, the solution is denial. Denial, it's not happening. In fact, we'll punch you in the face if you say it is. The warning comes amid a rollback of green rules as far-right parties that deny the science of climate change gain ground across the continent. The U.S. has also put pressure on European Union leaders to buy its fossil fuels and ditch pollution standards that affect imported goods. This article from 2024, what would cities look like with a 3 degree Celsius warming versus 1.5? Far more hazardous and vastly unequal. The world experienced a 13-month streak of record-breaking global temperatures. That hasn't changed much this year. And as blistering heat waves punished communities across the continent, 2024 was the hottest year on record. Global average temperatures are now fairly close to exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. A threshold scientists warn will bring increasingly dangerous droughts, wildfires, and impacts of climate change. You see it happening in front of you, but you still deny that it's happening. No, our fires are happening because people are out there in the woods lighting them. You know, there's arsonists everywhere. It's a big arsonist conspiracy all over the globe. Researchers project nearly 3 degrees of temperature would happen by 2100 without significant action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That's 75 years from now. This means 600 million people will be exposed to flooding from rising seas. Food production will drop by as much as half, and habitats will suffer disastrous levels of loss. So data finds most cities, the difference between 3 degrees Celsius and 1.5 degrees is sizable. We analyzed potential climate hazards for nearly 1,000 of the world's largest cities, currently home to 2.1 billion people, or 26% of the global population, using estimated base on downscaled global climate models. At 3 degrees C of warming, many cities could face months-long heat waves, skyrocketing energy demand for air conditioning, as well as shifting risk for insect-borne diseases. Sometimes simultaneously, people in low-income cities are likely to be the hardest hit, because they always are. These findings hold immense consequence for people's lives and livelihoods, as well as for cities, economies, infrastructures, and public health. The implications are important, as cities home to 4.4 billion people globally, more than half the world's population, will grow rapidly over the next 2 decades. So we have some estimated climate impacts between, here's what we have in 1.5 C and 3 degrees Celsius for global averages. Annual longest heat wave duration, 16.3 days. That would, at 3 degrees Celsius global temperature, now go to 24.5 days. Number of heat waves per year, we've gone from roughly 5, we'll go up to 6.4. 4.7 heat waves for low-income areas and 6.9 for low-income areas. Study after study show people die and economies slow down during prolonged periods of abnormally high temperatures. At 3 degrees Celsius of warming, most cities can expect longer, more frequent heat waves. Across the world's cities, the longest heat wave per year in a 1.5 degrees C warmer world could average 16.3 days per year, with 3% of the cities facing a heat wave every year that lasts 1 month or longer. Those are long heat waves. However, during the current trajectory of nearly 3 degrees Celsius of warming, the average duration of the longest heat wave in a year may jump to 24.5 days, with more than 16% of the world's largest cities, 302 million people, exposed to at least one heat wave lasting 1 month or longer every year. Duration of annual longest heat wave also varies significantly by region. At 1.5 degrees C of warming, the Middle East and North Africa and Latin America and Caribbean regions may see the longest heat waves on average lasting 23 to 25 days. At 3 degrees C of warming, the Middle East and North Africa may see estimated jump in duration of annual longest heat waves, bringing the longest heat waves in the region to 36.3 days. East Asia and the Pacific and South Asia may see increases of 9 to 10 days longer. Heat waves may become more frequent too. At 1.5 C degree temperature rise, the average city may experience 4.9 heat waves per year. That's almost 5 per year. But at 3 degrees C warming, the number of heat waves would rise to 6.4 per year. So each year, having more of these heat waves. Cities and countries with different income levels could see different changes at 1.5 degrees. Our high-income countries may see an estimated 5.2 heat waves per year, largely northern countries, while those in low-income countries may see 4.7. As we go up to 3 degrees C warming, the number of heat waves for cities in high-income countries may rise to an estimated 5.9 heat waves per year. So cities in low-income countries, heat wave frequency may rise by an estimated 2.1 to 6.9 heat waves per year. The more frequent heat waves can take a massive toll on public health and social and economic development. The effects can be life-threatening, especially on vulnerable people. And within cities, poor neighborhoods will feel the effects more sharply if they have fewer green areas to cool and poor quality buildings and less access to mechanical cooling, combined with air pollution. An all too common problem in cities, heat waves become deadlier. For example, cardiovascular disease is exacerbated by extreme temperatures and by the tropospheric ozone, formation of which increases at higher temperatures. Heat waves also exacerbate wildfires, which can increase exposure to pollution known as carcinogens linked to diseases and premature death. Then we have rising demand for cooling. So the energy that's going to cost to cool things at 1.5 degrees, approximately 8.7 million people across a handful of cities could face double their historical cooling demand. So places in the north needing more, but at 3 degrees Celsius, approximately 194 million people could see a doubling from their historic levels. We're seeing heat waves further and further into the north in Canada, for example. Places that haven't had to consider cooling strategies because of mild climates like Northern Europe or U.S. Pacific Northwest will need to do so more often. BC has found this out. We've been having these heat waves now every year. If met through mechanical means, the uptick in energy may require a sizable investment in energy infrastructure and building technologies. So we're going to need more power to survive what's going on, which is probably going to make more climate change unless we adopt green energy. But we're not allowed to talk about that, says Herr Führer Trump. Meanwhile, many places are already hot, like Tehran and Marrakesh. They're increasing their cooling demand faster than relatively cool cities. For many of these cities, population growth and cooling technology adoption become complicating factors. Energy-intensive air conditioning is less commonly used in lower-income cities, but demand is increasing as these countries get richer and more populous. Only 8% of the people at the bottom of the income gap of the planet Earth, 2.8 billion people. For example, India, over 215 million people are in cities. They're estimated to be at higher risk of heat-related health problems due to a lack of cooling services and infrastructure, including more than 121 million girls and women who are affected disproportionately by extreme heat in health and economic outcomes. There's a massive gap between existing cooling investment and what will be needed by 2050 to save lives, especially in lower-income countries. Then you have growing and shifting disease risks because of malaria. You can imagine all the different diseases this could mean. 1.5 degrees C, people in low-income countries may experience 73 peak arbovirus days compared to just 27.9 for cities in high-income countries. So here's one reason why people in the West don't care, because it's most likely to affect people in sub-Saharan Africa and places like this even worse than us. You know, we can kind of spend our way out of it. So we think right now before our economies completely collapse. Where is the collapse threshold? You know, when does that finally break through? When does the madness of just doubling down more and more and more finally catch up to us as we see that we're economically always on the brink of collapse. We're always on the edge of that with this current economic system that with the economic system we live under. But, for people in poor parts of the world, that risk that they're under goes too much. They can't just right now they can't spend their way out of it, let alone in a climate change future. So anyways, that's just kind of a look at some numbers I was looking at. Hit like, share, subscribe, keep coming on by. We'll talk about anything, everything. Why not?